Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole and I like to do fashion DIYs. And in today's video, I am going to be attempting to make a three-piece set out of this dress that I thrifted in my last thrift haul video, which I will have linked below if you want to check that out. But my vision is to make a skirt and like two different top variations. So I am really lucky that there is so much fabric. It is quite long, so I think I'll be okay with what I have in my head and trying to recreate it. The dress itself is fully lined, and I kind of wanted to challenge myself and make a fully lined skirt with an invisible zipper. I know it can get a little like tricky working with the lining and the zipper, and it's a little daunting, and I'm a little nervous of how it's gonna turn out, but I figured I might as well give it a shot and take you guys along for the journey. So that reminds me, before we even get started, please be sure to subscribe if you like what you're seeing and give this video a thumbs up so I know that you like my DIYs and my content. And let's get into the video. Okay, so I'm going to start with the thing that I am dreading the most, which is the pencil skirt. And I don't typically work with patterns, but I forgot that I actually owned this little basic skirt pattern. So I thought using this could save me a little bit of time. You can very easily draft your own skirt pattern from an existing skirt you already own, but I'm gonna give this a go. Honestly, lately I've been kind of wanting to explore more patterns. So this is kind of a, I believe I've used this in the past. I can't remember, to be honest, for what or when, but yeah, let's get into the pattern.
So luckily I already have used this pattern, so it was already cut out for me. To get the length I wanted, I just folded the pattern up about 2 inches. Before I could cut my skirt, I started by cutting my dress in half. I used a ruler and chalk to mark out my cut line. Then I cut down each side seam to separate the front from the back. Then pinned and cut my pattern to my pieces. I made sure that I lined up the pattern to the bottom of the dress to avoid having to recreate the hem later on. I needed to cut both in this fabric as well as the lining. I also used the front pattern piece as the back pattern as well. I can't remember why I did this exactly. I think it was because I wanted darts in the back as well, maybe? Anyways, then for the back piece, I just cut down the middle to create 2 pieces since I'll be adding a zipper. And I did the same for the lining. Before moving on to the next step, I serged all the edges to prevent fraying. Then I sewed up my darts, and then I sewed the front and back right sides together and repeated the same process for the lining. Keep in mind the lining should be at least 2 inches shorter than the outer fabric so it won't be visible under the skirt. Next step was to insert the invisible zipper. I marked out where I needed to sew to and pinned the center back together before sewing to my chalk mark. I pinned the zipper right sides together to the outer fabric of my skirt, pinning and sewing one side at a time. I don't actually have an invisible zipper foot, so I just used a regular zipper foot and rolled the zipper while I was sewing, and repeated the process to the other side. I thought I had footage of the sewing process, but apparently I do not. But after I had sewn both sides, it looked something like this. Then to add the lining, I sewed the center back pieces right sides together, and where I am going to sew my zipper, I trimmed off about 1 centimeter to eliminate bulk and serged the raw edges. This is when I realized it would be easier to do this next part with this seam opened up, so I had to seam rip it. Then I matched wrong sides together on the zipper and sewed each individual side. And I'm not going to lie, since I didn't have a presser foot for the invisible zipper, it's not very invisible, but because of the fabric, I was able to get away with it. Then I just closed up the center back seam of the lining. This is also the time where I made sure it fit me correctly and made any necessary adjustments. Last thing I needed to do with the skirt was to add an understitch to the lining to prevent the lining from rolling over when wearing the skirt. And since I kept the existing hem of the skirt is now complete.
Okay, wow, this skirt took me way longer than I thought it was going to take. It was a little bit more tricky to fit than I was expecting, so that's what took me so long. now I can finally move on to one of the tops I want to make out of this fabric. So I'm actually going to be replicating a tutorial that I have done in the past. So I'm going to kind of like skim over how I made this top because I'm just going to link that tutorial down below in case you are interested. This is one of my favorite tops. It's this backless tie-up top, and I honestly have made myself a few and I wear them all the time. But the only difference that I'm going to be doing with this one is I'm going to be lining it. Just because the blue fabric is a little sheer, so I'm going to be using the lining. But overall, it's relatively a very easy tutorial. Yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of speed through that.
Since I am working with a lining when it came to attach everything together, I am actually going to sandwich the lining and the fabric around the straps and the loops. That way they're completely sewn down on the inside, leaving a few inches open at the bottom so I can turn the top right side out. I then ironed the remaining seam in place and did a small hand stitch to close up that hole. And this guy is done. For the second top I am trying to make, my vision is to make this a button down and add cap sleeves with the pattern fabric. I'm going to start by cutting down the front to open up and rounding out the neckline. For some reason, I figured it was easier to seam rip the neckline before pinning it and marking out with my chalk a new neckline. After sewing along my chalk line, I trimmed off any extra fabric and made snips to allow ease when it's flipped right side out, and repeated the process to the other side. Since I was adding buttons, I decided to try out making fabric covered buttons, so I picked up this kit. The back of the packaging acts as a pattern, which I used to cut out my fabric. I went for the contrasting blue lining fabric and also fused interfacing to it. I then used the kit to push the button around the fabric. Once I stuffed the fabric into the back side of the button, I took the back of the button and pushed it into place using the kit. And I continued the process to make 4 buttons. For the loops, I have this leftover elastic from a previous project and I cut off 4. For some reason, I jumped over to making my sleeves now, so to make a pattern for that, I just measured out where I wanted my sleeve to start and end and used that measurement as my starting point for my pattern. Then I honestly just Googled cap sleeve pattern and did my best to replicate it. Then I used the pattern to cut out 2 sleeves of my printed fabric. I added a simple lettuce hem to the hem of the sleeve. To attach the sleeve, I had to seam rip the side and shoulder seam. Then I took my sleeve and sandwiched it in between the lining before pinning it by matching the center of the sleeve to the shoulder seam. Once everything was pinned into place, I used a top stitch to sew it all together. Then it was time to finish up the buttons. With the top right sides together, I pinned the button loops equal distance apart facing inwards. I made sure to tack down each individual button loop before sewing the seam closed. And then I closed up the other side with a simple straight stitch. Okay, moving on to the hem of the shirt. Since I didn't want a visible hemline, my solution was to turn the top inside out so right sides were touching. Since I have more lining fabric than printed fabric, I made sure to use the printed side as my guide of where to sew. Trimming the excess fabric before seam ripping a hole in the lining side seam so I can turn this right side out. Then I pressed everything flat down with my iron, and the last and final step was to hand sew on the buttons. I wanted to do this last because I could do a final fit adjustment with the button placement.
Okay, so I'm not going to lie, it is like 4 days later and I have finally finished this little 3-piece set, and I'm really excited to show you guys how it turned out. But before I get to that, I am actually going to be doing a little bag review. The brand SINBONO reached out to me, and I'm not gonna lie, I had actually never heard of them before, but after doing a little bit of research and checking out their website and what they're all about, I found that our values really aligned. All of their bags are made out of recycled water bottles and reclaimed fruit leathers. So I was really interested in working with them and doing a bag review to see what their brand is all about. They have so many cute, trendy bag styles on their website, and they allowed me to choose a bag from their website, and I went for this one. This one is called the Evelyn, and I got it in the color Lake Blue, and I'm really gonna be honest with you guys, I think the quality of this bag is insane. I honestly really do. It's so nice, it's so sturdy, it has like a good weight to it, and there's like a lot of structure in here, which is definitely something you want with like a ruched bag. The bag speaks for itself, it doesn't need to sag, and it definitely doesn't. I like the gold hardware as well, and it is fully lined, and the lining is like a faux suede, so it feels really nice. Overall, I am extremely impressed with the quality of this bag. I wasn't really sure what to expect, and to be honest, I would not be giving this such a rave review if I didn't actually like the quality and like the bag itself. I would never promote something on my channel that I fully wasn't standing behind. So I know lately I have been making a lot of bags on my channel, but if you are not the type who sews or even wants to make their own bag, this is a really great alternative. This brand, they have so many cute styles and trends, and I love the color selection, although I wish there were more red bags, to be honest, but the blue is gorgeous. I'm obsessed. For the price, I honestly think the quality is really there. Bags range around $70 to $100, which is really reasonable to me, especially for the quality. I'm gonna be styling this in the next clip with my outfit that I made, so you'll see this bag in action and how it wears, but overall I am extremely impressed, and I believe they have some sort of like 10% off promotion going on their website if you use the promo code SUMMER. I saw that on their website, so you can check that out if you are interested. So that is it for the review, and let's get into the final reveal. Are still here, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and let me know which of the 3 pieces you liked the best, and yeah, subscribe for more fashion DIY content, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!